Okay, so I'm super excited about this video today. I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite pianists of all time. And usually here on this channel or on Patreon, I talk about more classic pianists, older pianists. But today I'm going to talk about someone who's a contemporary of mine and a friend, and someone who really has been pushing the envelope for jazz piano, and someone who's really been a guiding light, revealing to us what's even possible at this instrument, what's possible technically, what's possible conceptually. And I'm speaking of the great pianist Sullivan Fortner. And if you haven't heard his last album, Solo Game, perhaps you are living under a rock, because it's just so tremendous that we really owe it to ourselves to dive into this playing and learn as much as we can. I mean, Sullivan has been really blowing everyone's minds for years, and now on Solo Game we have this massive document of one set of solo piano and one set of kind of electronic experiments, and we're getting such a detailed look inside of this really brilliant mind. So anyways, I wanted to dive into just a moment of this album, because really it's an ocean. It's an ocean of brilliance. But I wanted to take just 20 seconds of this music and really dissect it. One time I heard Sullivan say, he was speaking about Barry Harris, and he said that he wished he could have just a sliver of what he had. And I can say pretty safely that, well, I'd like to have just a sliver of what Sullivan has. And actually, pretty much, I think most jazz pianists would agree. Just a sliver of what Sullivan has is all we want. There's plenty of praise lavished on Sullivan that you can check out. But yeah, he's really just a guiding light and a brilliant musician. And we're going to look at a little bit of his playing today and try and just get a sliver of inspiration for ourselves. I heard the pianist Peter Martin, the great pianist Peter Martin, at Open Studio describe Sullivan's playing as effortless deconstruction, and I thought that was a very hip way of describing something that Sullivan does. So we're going to look at the introduction that Sullivan plays on Don't You Worry About a Thing, and we're going to take it one repeat at a time and see how he deconstructs it with each repeat of the phrase. So first, just in case you haven't heard it, we have to listen to the original Stevie Wonder recording of, well, it's his song, so we have to listen to Stevie playing Don't You Worry About a Thing. If you haven't heard it, you got to check that out too. You're probably really living under a rock if you haven't heard his landmark album Inner Visions. So here is Don't You Worry About a Thing, Stevie Wonder. Okay, so that's how the track starts. It's a montuno. It's a montuno, a classic montuno figure. And Sullivan takes that figure and busts it wide open. So now let's listen to Sullivan on Solo Game. This is just the introduction. Okay, so we have 4 repeats of this montuno rhythm, and each one gets a little crazier. So let's dive into it.
Hey everyone, if you're enjoying this video, or any of my YouTube videos over the years, you might enjoy taking a deeper dive over at my Patreon page. There you'll have access to a massive library of exclusive educational videos, just like this one, a monthly live stream Q&A with me, where I play a bit and take questions, a collection of exclusive solo piano videos, and more. With over 50 educational videos, 50 live streams, and 80 solo piano videos, there's well over 50 hours of material to explore, and it's expanding monthly. In addition to the content you might enjoy, subscribing to my Patreon page also supports the production of more material like this. So, if you'd like to see more, please consider subscribing. Now, back to the video.
So, right from the beginning again. Now we have to stop there, because the first chord, we hear this. Now, the basic montuno pattern is this, which you play with one hand. But the sound that we hear now is a grace note on the bottom and a grace note on the top, but not a grace note in the middle. So we have to think, how could he be getting that sound? Not to dwell on this little thing too much, but it's important. Now, you could do that with one hand, if you do this with your thumb, but it's a little bit clunky. You know, that happens sometimes, but in this case, the sound that's coming out of the piano is, I would say, too crisp and too precise to really be coming out with just his thumb. So when you hear the first note, it's a signal that something different is happening. He's probably playing it with 2 hands. Now, why would you play with 2 hands something you could play with 1 hand? And the reason is, if you take a pattern like this and use unexpected fingerings to play it, then new textural possibilities open up. And this is something that you hear in Sullivan's playing a lot. You'll hear a melody played in a different hand or with a different fingering. And that's going to open up some new textural possibilities around it. So let's listen to this pattern and see how, when you play it with 2 hands, different possibilities open up. So, when you play it with 2 hands like that, one hand can kind of veer off in another direction. So we have this pattern, dun, 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 and underneath it we have this potential double time subdivision. Dun, boom, 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 dun, dun, dun. So we're going to break it up. Now, the hands are going to diverge. The right hand plays this, and the left hand introduces the dun, 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 dun. The left hand introduces the double time pattern. And now it sounds like more than 2 hands are playing, because we're expecting this. The first time you hear it, it's unclear where that even comes from. But it's a very clever trick. Now more layers are opening up. And we have this double time figure. Now this is being held. He holds this with his thumb, and now he answers this double time figure with 2 hands. So watch what he plays. So this is being held, and then there's double time around the middle. So we're having rhythm go around this held note in the middle, and it's double time. And it's actually, just to talk about this, it's actually kind of pianistically an easy thing to play. If you break up double time like this, it's down, or up, down, so the right hand plays this, and then the left hand can just play notes going down. So you could make a sort of pattern out of this. So if you wanted to practice that kind of pattern, it could be a useful thing to use in our playing. Okay. So all of a sudden, we have this multi-layered conversation between the hands. And it's actually hard to know which hand is playing what. And it's only been 3 seconds of piano playing. Before I get to the next measure, I have to say one thing, that when pianists hear Sullivan, their heads explode, because it's hard to fathom how he even comes up with this stuff. But it also comes out in a way that's kind of unassuming. So a non-pianist might not really even notice how incredible it is. It's not super obvious hitting you over the head with kind of flamboyant virtuosity. But the intricacy of what's happening here is pretty tremendous. So you can see it's been just 2 seconds, and already we have it's been 2-3 seconds, and we already have a lot to think about. I mean, just that's enough to practice. Remember, we started here, and it became pretty great. Okay, now the second repeat. Let's listen to it. Okay, so what happened there? So again, we have this pattern, this rhythmic pattern. Now, what he's doing with the harmony is cool. He's I mean, it's E flat minor, but he's adding a ninth. It sounds cool. Now, the right hand takes this by itself, and again, once the right hand takes it by itself, the left hand is free to split. Now the left hand splits off and goes into this. Uh-oh. What's that all about? So, to me, it sounds like if I had to put a chord on it, it would be this kind of A diminished scale. That kind of sound. It comes from that world, this diminished world. And it's unexpected to hear that at this moment. To me, it's kind of a signal that things are about to deconstruct. Yeah, uh-oh. And also notice, it doesn't match exactly with what's happening in the right hand. The right hand is playing this with the B flat, so kind of a natural 9 on the A flat 7. And then the left hand is playing a flat 9. So I mean, technically the hands don't really match, but you don't notice, and it doesn't really matter. I mean, it has a sort of jarring effect. Yeah, and to me it signals that things are about to deconstruct a little more. Let's listen to it one more time. Wow. Also, playing this is kind of a tricky thing to play. You see, we have to get from 4 to 5. It's potentially kind of a wide stretch, but if you practice this and this, then it actually fits the piano pretty well. I wouldn't try too hard to connect this 4 and this 5. I mean, it's reachable, especially if you have a medium or larger size hand, but I think you can release the F and just go safely to the C. Very cool. Now, to the third repeat. Okay, so what happens here? So, I'd say what's happening here, if I had to describe it somehow, that's on the downbeat. I'd say it's basically like a B flat 7 chord. So he's basically just playing B flat 7 instead of E flat minor. So he's playing the 5 chord over the 1 chord. And now the right hand, it's the rhythm of the montuno, but it's more or less, except for the Fs, it's more or less all from that scale, that kind of sound. And there's something you can do that I think is cool. If I use this scale, but also use the same rhythm of the montuno, that's, I think, what's happening here. So B flat 7, leading, which is the 5 chord of the E flat minor. So that stuff is all within the B flat altered sound. Now the left hand brings back the double time. Now this is kind of, you could think of it like B minor, maybe like B minor E7. Now the left hand plays this, and then the right hand answers. So again, we have this conversation always happening between the right hand and the left hand. And then the left hand also. So this whole part. Pretty cool, right? So you hear the ingredients of that first montuno pattern, but now when you put it all over B flat 7, then it has an unexpected character. And again, there's this conversational element between the hands and this underlying double time pulse that's happening. What's cool about this, I mean, there's so many things that are cool about this, but actually if you try and play this on the piano, it really fits well. It's not the most insanely technically difficult thing to play, but to conceive of it, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, how do you come up with this stuff? Okay. Okay, and then we have a downbeat right on 1, a 5th. Now let's listen to the last repeat. Now, the right hand, for the first time, the right hand is playing the full montuno pattern all by itself, but here it just moves down a half step. Just, who knows, that's just what he was hearing. Now if the right hand is playing this, the right hand is playing a D, here in his left hand he plays this, so now he makes it like a B minor chord for a second. And now he plays this in his left hand, so it's almost like a B flat major 7 chord for a second. So, he was just hearing that. Now here we have a G flat triad and an A flat triad, so it's almost a relief to hear just normal, plain, open triads after all of the kind of deconstructed harmony we heard in the previous measures. So just regular old triads, and then 5 back to 1. So that's the introduction. That's just, less than 20 seconds of music. It sounds like this. So there we have it. Now, let's listen to just the very beginning of the head, just because it's so cool. I want to just listen to a little bit of it. I mentioned at the very beginning that if you take a melody or rhythm and play it with unexpected fingerings, then different orchestrational possibilities open up. So here we have the melody. Oh, one more thing. I'm sorry, I have to say one more thing. Shout out to Stevie Wonder for writing this song. It's such a great song. And this montuno, the rhythm of that montuno becomes the rhythm of the melody, which is very, very, very cool. I don't know, it just makes a lot of sense. It's glue between the introduction and the melody. It's not random at all. It's put together on purpose. So this rhythm of bum, ba, bum, 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 that's really the glue that's connecting everything that Sullivan is playing in the intro, and then even into the melody of the song, that rhythmic glue is still there. It's just a brilliant song. So I gotta say that. You gotta give a shout out to Stevie Wonder. But back to this idea of orchestration. This is the melody. If I play it with my right hand, or if I play it with my thumb, then I can harmonize above the melody, which Sullivan does here. Now actually what Sullivan does is, instead of playing the melody, from the first note he plays with his right hand, then the second note he plays with his left hand. So when you play the melody that way, you get these other orchestrational possibilities. So here we have the melody, which comes in a tricky place rhythmically. The left hand is one. So you hear the melody in the middle, and then you hear this stuff all around it. Watch here in this measure. In the left hand alone, we have the melody here in the thumb, and we have a little note below the melody and a little note above the melody. So you have this very alive texture. The piano is really alive, and it's unpredictable. You don't know where the melody is going to be, and you don't really know what hand is playing what. Let's listen to it. Yeah, it's so alive. It's really something. So yeah, I don't know what to say. So we just spent a considerable amount of time talking about really 20 seconds of piano playing. And like I said before, this is just a drop in this ocean of an album. You could spend months, you could spend forever just digesting all the information in these 20 seconds. But the whole album is just this enormous ocean that we really owe it to ourselves to check out. So we have to give a big thank you to Sullivan Fortner for this remarkable playing, and for really showing us the light. And yeah, if we could just have one sliver of what Sullivan has, we'd all be happy. So yeah, check out Solo Game, and yeah, enjoy practicing this, and big thank you to Sullivan.